Hey guys, C here from USBC Wrestling, and this is a review on the original Summerslam from 1988, as a little series until Summerslam actually comes out on August 19th. I'm going to review some of the Summerslams, like some of the bigger ones over the years. And we're getting started with the original. So let's begin. SummerSlam 1988 took place in Madison Square Garden with apparently 20,000 in attendance. The matches tonight were as follows. We had the British Bulldogs taking on the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers, Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera, Rick Rude versus Junkyard Dog, Powers of Pain versus the Bolsheviks, The Ultimate Warrior defeating the Honky Tonk Man, Dino Bravo versus Dal Morocco, Demolition versus the Hart Foundation, Big Boss Man versus Coco Beware, Jake Roberts taking on Hercules, and finally in the main event, the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks. So let's get started with the first match, the British Bulldogs versus the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers. Alright. The British Bulldogs, who are Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, and the Rougeau brothers are Jack and Raymond. So, right as the match began, Smith attacked Jack. It was a very back and forth match until the end when Davey Boy Smith and the British Bulldog performed a double team maneuver on Jack, and however, they were not able to pin Jack in time, and the match ended in a 20-minute time draw, which, for those of you who don't know, that is a thing that they used to do. If a match went to 20 minutes, it was over. They ended in a draw. So the first match of one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time, for WWE, ended in a draw. That is not good. That I understand, it's probably for a story purpose, but the first match, come on. You could easily have switched out this match and the next one. But anyway, I rate them out of 10. So, because it was a pretty good match, considering it lasted 20 minutes. Although it did end in a time-limited draw, which will factor into my score for it. I'm going to rate it a solid, considering it was quick, fast-paced, and there was action throughout the 20 minutes, a solid 5.5. Right. Up next was Bad News Brown and Ken Patera. I think I'm saying that name right. Before the bell even rang, Bad News attacked him, who retaliated with a clothesline from the corner. And then after that, Patera locked in a full Nelson, but Bad News escaped. In the end, Bad News Brown defeated Patera by striking him in the back of the head with his finishing move. Oh god, this is the name. The Ghetto Blaster. BP's over there reading a book. I was hoping he'd have some kind of reaction to that name. Anyway, after that, we had Rick Rude versus the Junkyard Dog. The match began as Rick Rude attacked Junkyard from behind, who retaliated with headbutts. After that, Rude climbed to the top rope. And oh yeah, this was a storyline that was going on between Rick Rude and Jake Roberts, where Rick Rude was attracted to Roberts' wife, because wrestling, I guess. And what he did, when he climbed to the top rope, he pulled down his tights to reveal another pair of tights with the picture of Cheryl Roberts on them, specifically spray painted onto the crotch region. After that, Jake Roberts ran to the ring and attacked Rude, forcing the referee to disqualify the Junkyard Dog. Oh yeah, I need to give a rating for Bad News Brown. As it was kind of short, and honestly, I don't know the point of the match being there, I'm gonna rate it like a 5. But the Rick Rude versus Junkyard Dog, as it was short, but it led into part of a storyline, so there was a reason for it to be so short, and it had a pretty good ending. So I'm gonna give it a 6.5. Alright, up next we have the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian, and the Warlord with the Baron. Okay, they like the word "the" in their names. Versus the Bolsheviks, Boris Zhukov and Nikolai Volkov. To put into perspective, this was before the Soviet Union was dissolved, so that was still a thing. Immediately, the Powers of Pain chased the Bolsheviks from the ring. Oh yeah, also the Bolsheviks were accompanied by a guy named Slick. Right. Slick distracted the Powers of Pain long enough to give the Bolsheviks an advantage in the match, and then Zhukov was slammed into the mat back first and headbutted from the top rope, which allowed the Barbarian to pin him, resulting in the Powers of Pain winning. I mean, the match was very basic, and it was only 5.5 minutes, so 4. Alright, next, speaking of very short matches, the Ultimate Warrior versus the Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. Oh boy. Alright, before the match, it was announced that Honky Tonk Man's original challenger, Brutus Beefcake, was unable to wrestle due to being attacked the previous week by outlaw Ron Bass, who had raked his cowboy spurs repeatedly across Beefcake's forehead. Prior to the match, the Honky Tonk Man refused to be informed about Beefcake's replacement, and immediately before the match, even grabbed ring announcer Howard Finkel's microphone and said, "Give me something out here to wrestle, I don't care who it is." This challenge was answered by the Ultimate Warrior, who accidentally knocked Finkel to the floor when he rushed into the ring and hit the ropes. Good job. Had the advantage from the beginning, because he attacked Honky Tonk Man, who still had his entrance attire on. He had not taken off whatever it is he wears for his wrestling. I guess like a coat or something. And then he knocked Honky to the mat and used the signature move, the Warrior Splash, and pinned him in 30 seconds. 30 seconds long. It's the end. One of the longest, actually I believe it was the longest Intercontinental Championship reign of all time. Amounted to 30 seconds. Nice. I mean, I got a huge audience reaction, so that was something. And a lot of people even voted it Match of the Year. For 30 seconds. Why? Why was that one known as the best one? Anyway, it was good for story purposes, I guess, and also it was a very interesting way to get the title switched while keeping the audience entertained. So I'm going to give that a 7. And that might be the match of the night, actually. Alright, next is against Dino Bravo and The Rock Don Morocco as a rematch from WrestleMania 4 back in April, because this is before weekly shows and monthly pay-per-views were a thing. So you only got like once every 3 months, or you could go at house shows, which they wouldn't really do for stories. Anyway, Don Morocco was in control most of the match until Bravo's manager distracted him, allowing Bravo to use a side suplex finisher and pin him for the win. And before the match, Don Morocco had gone into the match without his manager, Billy Graham, who could only look on from the commentary booth alongside Gorilla Monsoon at the illegal antics of Bravo and Martin. Hey B, did I give the third or fourth? Oh no, I did give the third match. Did I give the fourth match a rating? I'm going to now. I believe I gave the British Bulldogs, Edwards Brown, Rick Rudes, and Ultimate Warriors matches all a rating, but I do not remember Powers of Pain, so I'm going to rate it a solid 5. Anyway, Dino Bravo match. Since it was relatively short, although these two were known as reliable mid-carders who could get the crowd invested but not really run a 20-minute match, I'm going to give it 5.75. So 5 3/4 for that one. Alright, next was Demolition, Axe and Smash, who were defending the championships with Mr. Fuji and Jimmy Hart as their managers against the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And as soon as the bell went off, the Hart Foundation attacked both members. Their control was brief as Demolition then gained the advantage over Neidhart. As Bret Hart was tagged into the match, Demolition got the advantage over him when he was whipped shoulder first into the turnbuckle, breaking Mr. Fuji's cane that he had placed there when the referee wasn't looking. So a bit of cheap tactics right there. After that, Demolition worked Hart's shoulder, injuring it further. And a frustrated Jim Neidhart chased Jimmy Hart from ringside and returned back to tag into the match. After that, all four men began fighting in the ring. Neidhart attacked Mr. Fuji, who was on the ring apron, knocking him off. In the end, Bret Hart attempted a power driver, but Axe hit him with a megaphone given by Jimmy Hart sneaking back into the ring. Smash then pinned Bret Hart for the win. So very cheap throughout, but I guess they were the heels, so that was the point. Other than that, match seems good. Good time, over 10 minutes. One of the four over 10 minutes. One of them barely counts, but those 4 matches that went over 10 minutes. We had the one that went to overtime, this one, Jake Roberts and Hercules, and the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks. I will go over those matches in a minute. But first, the Demolition versus Hart Foundation. Solid match between, again, solid mid-carders at the time. The cheap tactics of Demolition were seen as pretty common at the time, but still, it wasn't overly dependent on them, I guess. But at the same time, it still gave Bret and Jim some offense throughout. So I'm going to rate that match also a 7. Alright. Next, we had Big Boss Man with Slick as his manager with Coco Beware. And using Slick as the distraction, Big Boss Man took the early advantage in the match. After getting Coco in between himself and the turnbuckle with a jumping avalanche, Boss Man refused to pin him and finish the match. Instead, he attempted to climb to the top rope and land on Coco's stomach first, but missed. The Birdman... Excuse me, what? The Birdman then retaliated by performing several drop kicks and attempted a pin. Boss Man got his shoulder up to save himself at the last second, and he slammed his opponent into the mat, allowing him to pin Coco for the win. Alright. Match was very basic, just under 6 minutes. That gets a 5. I have to say, when I'm going over like the older pay-per-views, like before the mid-90s, more like basically like before 97 and 98, when the matches started getting like faster, expect a lower rating overall, because those matches before then were always slow, as the wrestlers weren't really as quick as they are now. Some of them are. Some of them could work a match for a solid, 10 minutes, like the Hart Foundation does here, but most matches will be rated kind of low, as they're not very quick-paced, not really that good of matches in quality compared to now. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, with the Big Boss Man match, I already rated that a solid, 5, I think. If I didn't already say that, then that's what the rating is, 5. Next, we have the second to last match of the night, Jake Roberts versus Hercules. This match also went over 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 6 seconds. So just barely, but it did it. When Roberts attempted to get his DDT, Hercules escaped it and took control. But when Hercules attempted to slam Roberts reversed it into a DDT, allowing him to pin and get the victory. So, not that much eventful, despite it being 10 minutes long, but serviceable match, so I'm going to rate that a 5.5. Alright, now the main event. Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan, and Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth, Randy Savage's wife, versus the Mega Bucks, Andre the Giant, and Ted DiBiase, with Bobby Heenan and Virgil, the two managers for the Mega Bucks team. Now this is how you end SummerSlam, the original one. You get the biggest stars that you have and put them all together. It's like the perfect, I don't know what the word I'm thinking, but it's like the perfect way to end your first ever SummerSlam. Because at the time, they knew that this was going to be one of the big four. This was the last of the big four to come out. So yeah, they would have known that this is going to be one of their yearly, big pay-per-views. So, might as well end it with a bang. And it worked, because here we are, almost actually, this is the 30th. This is the 30th anniversary of SummerSlam, so obviously it worked. And this was a very good show financially, and at the time, the matches were serviceable / good for some of them. So, anyway, let's get into the final match. Also, Jesse Ventura was the special guest referee for the night, or for the match, at least. The Mega Powers took the early advantage over DiBiase after Hogan attacked Andre the Giant, who was on the ring apron, because this was towards the end of his career, and he was not very mobile anymore, so he couldn't really work as much as he was able to before, in the 70s, unfortunately. Rip Andre. The Mega Bucks were able to regain control. After a while, all four men began brawling, and Andre knocked the Mega Powers out of the ring. Subsequently, as part of the scripted ending, Miss Elizabeth began arguing with Ventura, the referee, and ripped off her skirt to reveal her panties. While this would be a very normal thing in the 90s and early to mid 2000s, this was a very shocking moment in the late 80s. This is the first time they really did anything like this, so it distracted both the Mega Bucks and Ventura. Savage climbed onto the top rope and dropped the Macho elbow, or an elbow drop, onto DiBiase, followed by Hogan hitting the leg drop on him as well. As Hogan pinned DiBiase, Ventura, a villainous character aligned with the Mega Bucks, began a slow 3 count. As a result, Randy Savage slammed Ventura's arm down for the 3rd time, indicating that they had won. Bit of an odd finish, but considering it was 4 of the biggest stars at the time, actually no, it wasn't 4 of the biggest, it was the 4 biggest stars at the time, because we weren't at the point where Ultimate Warrior was really the most popular yet. But we had the 4 biggest people in the WWF going at it at the end of the first SummerSlam. So that alone is going to get a decent rating. But considering the ending, how they went very risky with Miss Elizabeth, and also with the ending, with a bit of a screw ending with the slow count being forced, I'm going to rate it a... Well, I'm trying to think of this through a 1988 perspective, because a nowadays perspective would put this at a 5. But at the same time, in 1988, this must have been the most amazing thing you could see. So I'm going to rate this a 7.25. 7 and a quarter will be where we're at for the final match. So altogether, solid start for SummerSlam. Financially, it worked wonders for McMahon. And nowadays, the wrestling isn't that good, but you can say that about any pay-per-view from the 80s. But if you looked at it, if you were watching it live, then this would be like some of the best you could see. So overall, I'm going to rate it a 6.5. As it was a solid pay-per-view, but it was nothing incredible. Anyway, that would be the end of the review for the original SummerSlam. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to USBC Wrestling, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.